It's Wulf, and it's another 15 first impressions. This one is about the open beta of The Finals. The Finals is a semi-futuristic game show themed first-person shooter. In the open beta, all of the game modes revolve around getting money from cash boxes and depositing that cash, although it functions a little bit differently depending on the mode you're playing. I want to mention at the beginning here that even though this is the open beta of the finals, I think the actual final released game is going to be very, very similar to this, if not exactly the same, because one of the things that they're doing is they're actually letting you keep cosmetics that you earn in this open beta in the full version of the game, and developers don't usually do things like that unless it's very close to being released. As I mentioned a moment ago, this game takes place in a futuristic game show. You play as a contestant of the game show who is trying to complete the objectives to win the match. There's not really a story right now in the finals, although I have a feeling that they might add a little bit of like a background story in the future, because between the things the announcers say and the stuff that's available in the store, I think there's some opportunity there to have kind of an interesting story about what the finals actually is and how it came to be. There is a little bit of that already, because there's like a voice line from one of the announcers that notes that the contestants are actually playing in a virtual reality game, and there's a couple of made-up brands that keep popping back up, both through things announcers say, and also through the clothing and some of the other cosmetic items that are available. Which similarly reminds me of a theory that I have about this game. I think that a main audience that the developers of this game are going for is the esports market. A lot of stuff in this game reminds me of esports stuff. For example, there's two announcers that say stuff as you play through the match, and actually there's also a third announcer that you can kind of hear in the background shouting, almost like how sometimes when you watch sports on TV, there will be the announcers that are saying things to the TV audience, but then sometimes you'll also sort of hear another announcer in the distance that's actually announcing the game in real life. The other thing is, the game already has made-up companies that sponsor the finals within the in-game universe. And even though these companies are made up, the areas that they put like the company logos in and stuff like that in the game, I could very easily imagine, if this game ever does become a popular esports title, them just taking real brands and putting them into those spots if they sponsor events. That being said, this game also does kind of feel like a parody of esports games because it leans so heavily into that. So there's a part of me that wonders if they're actually planning on doing esports or if they're genuinely just trying to make fun of it and that's why the game looks that way. Either way, I don't really think that either approach to the vibe of the game is a bad thing. I think that parodying esports is kind of fun, it's kind of funny, and it makes it a little bit different. Or if they do really lean into actual esports stuff, that's fine too, because it's still fun to play esports games as just a normal player. Anyway, aside from all of that, how does the game actually play? It plays pretty dang well. This game is developed by Embark Studios, and they're actually developing another game I'm very interested in, Arc Raiders. And when they first sort of became a company and people talked about them a little bit, one of the things people mentioned was that some of the developers at Embark, or possibly all of them, are former developers of the Battlefield franchise. So the game does feel pretty similar to Battlefield, and even Call of Duty, because Battlefield and Call of Duty play pretty much the same nowadays anyway. So the first-person shooter mechanics are absolutely solid. There are not any issues. It doesn't feel weird. If you've played Call of Duty or Battlefield or another popular FPS lately, you'll be able to jump into this and understand the gun-based gameplay pretty easily. But the game also does have quite a few unique features that differentiate it from a lot of other first-person shooters. So for one, you only can have one primary weapon. After you've picked out an actual gun, or in some cases a rocket launcher, all of your secondary items are things like grenades, jump pads, and stuff like that. Which brings me to one thing that I don't like about the gameplay of the finals, the way they have the classes set up. So this is one of these games where you can choose a character size, which means that you can play as a smaller character who has less health but runs faster and things like that, medium-sized character who has kind of middle ground, or larger character who has a lot more health but is slower. Now, I think that part is actually fun. I've played quite a few games before that do that type of thing, and it's always cool to be able to have more options on how you want to build your class. The issue is that there is effectively no crossover between any of the items or weapons between these different sizes of characters. I understand that they probably did this from a balancing standpoint, But there are a lot of times where sometimes some weapons in some size classes feel like they would be fitting better for other classes, or like you just question why one is in one class and not the other, or why there's not overlap, things like that. It can kind of make it feel tougher actually to customize a character to your liking because you are limited quite a bit by what size character you want to play as. I think that in general too, the weapons could use a little bit more balance because there's some weapons that just kind of stand out compared to others that a lot of players have already started using, and other ones that I've not barely seen people use, especially for like the light class, the M10, the Mac 10 or Mac 11, I don't remember the exact name, but the submachine gun that class starts with. A lot of people have been using that one or the other submachine gun that looks kind of like an MP5, and I mean, they do kind of run circles around the other weapons in that class. Also, destruction is a pretty key gameplay point of this game, and some classes have more of an ability to destroy things than others. So, for example, the heavy class has a lot of destructive things. There's a bash ability that you can run through walls with, there's a rocket launcher, you can get like a sledgehammer. The light class has a satchel charge type thing that you can use, but the medium class, weirdly enough, doesn't really have that much that can destroy walls, and grenades don't really destroy walls. The grenade launcher that the medium class has access to doesn't destroy walls. So it feels a little bit weird with the destruction in this game sometimes, how it's like kind of limited to the light and heavy classes, and also how some of the weapons and explosives that you would think would destroy walls and stuff don't actually do so. The destruction overall does add quite a bit to this game because you can use it in a lot of strategical ways. I'm not totally sure what gameplay I'll use for this video because I had some recorded, but then I played some more and unlocked some other stuff, so I might record some other gameplay, which it should be in 4K by the way. But for example, there's a lot of times in this game where you have to wait for something to unlock, whether it's a cash box that you've got to wait to spawn in, or you've got to wait for the cash box to open, or in some of the modes where you have to take the box to a deposit point and you bank it there and you have to wait for it to bank. Sometimes when you're doing a thing like that, if like enemies come into the room, you can blow up the floor and drop the entire banking mechanism or the cash box or whatever to the next level below you, or if you're a player trying to steal a banking station or a cash box or whatever from the enemy team, you can go to the floor below them, blow up the floor, and then drop it right to yourself. There's a lot of really cool strategy with that, but speaking of destroying things, I also want to note the buildings seem kind of empty, and I think that's by design, but sometimes it can make it feel a little bit weird because you'll go into like a house in a level and it'll just be totally devoid of furniture. Oh, and also on the note of destruction, even though I was saying a moment ago that it's kind of weird which items do destroy things and which don't, I did a little experiment, and the destruction is pretty realistic. Like, if you take out the walls of a house, the house will actually crumble down and stuff. A lot of people haven't really done that in normal gameplay that I've seen, but it is possible. So, for the last two things I want to talk about quick, I want to mention cosmetics and then game modes. Since this game is new and a little bit unique, there's a lot to talk about, so I'm not going to be able to talk about everything in this video, because just first impressions. But the cosmetics, I like the cosmetics quite a bit. There's a lot of bright colors. There's actually kind of a lot of almost like hype beast level stuff, but I think that's kind of fun, because a lot of first-person shooters are military-based, so you know, there's a lot of camos and dark colors and stuff like that, so it's fun to see something different in a video game, something that's a little more upbeat. And I also like the made-up companies that are sponsoring stuff. That's just kind of a fun way to add a little bit of, I don't know, lore to the game. And then in regards to game modes, so for one, all of the game modes currently in the game are 3-player teams. And I understand why so many games have been going for smaller teams or having like one person versus a bunch of others in a battle royale. I get it, it works well if you're playing with a small group of friends, stuff like that. But I think that there's also a lot of players, or at least I, really don't like that type of gameplay. Like, it's okay sometimes, but I prefer it when there's larger teams, like a 10v10 or 16v16, whatever it might be, two larger teams facing off against each other, because I like to play multiplayer games in a team, and it's fine to play with strangers, but it's not that great to play with strangers in a small team because you can't really communicate that well. If you're in a larger team in a game like this, you can still do your own thing, but you're also going to run into allies and enemies at a bigger rate, and it just works out better. It's like what Call of Duty's been doing with Team Deathmatch forever. And also, I think that the game modes could use a little bit more variety. I am a fan of the sort of get the cash, bank the cash style gameplay that this has. I remember Battlefield Hardline, however many years ago, had a game mode like that, and I played it constantly. I think it's a ton of fun. but I do think the game could use with like some more variations on that maybe, or just some other totally different game modes. Because right now, both of the modes that you can play are pretty much the same. The modes in the non-competitive gameplay mode, you get the cash box, you open it, you collect the coins, you go to a bank, you deposit them. In the competitive modes, you take the entire box and put it in the bank deposit machine and wait for it to deposit. It's a little bit different, like the way the timing works out and stuff, and there's different numbers of three-person teams. It's either 3 or 4 in a bunch of the game modes, but it all plays pretty much the same. And as much as I enjoy it, it does kind of get a little bit repetitive and boring, especially right now when there's not that many maps. So overall, I think my recommendations for the finals are balance and just more stuff. The game just definitely needs more stuff, and since it's a beta, I don't know if there's already going to be a lot more stuff when the game releases. I would be shocked if they only launched the game with a couple of maps like they have in the beta right now, but genuinely more maps, more cosmetics, more guns, more things like that. It just needs a lot more, I think, to add a lot more variety to it and keep players coming back. But nonetheless, the game is still a lot of fun to play. I'd heavily suggest checking out the beta. It's only on for a few more days, but the game is going to be free to play anyway, so you should check it out when it launches also, especially if there is more stuff in it. And I do hope that this game is successful, because this has actually been pretty much the first free-to-play PS5 game that I've played quite a bit, so I think I'm going to probably continue to play it more. I was thinking about this comparison when I first started playing it, and it's literally a better game than some games that I've paid full price for before. So I think that's a good example there to kind of compare things and show you guys the quality of this game. Anyway, thanks for watching this 15 first impressions, and here is the rest of the gameplay.
The Steamrollers are truly rolling in it now, with their coin-by-coin plays leading to victory. On behalf of... Here we go! The high notes, the powerhouses, the big splash, and finally, the overdogs. Let's go, everybody!
As usual, our eliminated contestants will burst into a pile of coins, but here in Bankit, those coins can be picked up and deposited. Finders keepers.
A bit of virtual catastrophe for the big splash. Team wiped. A new vault just appeared. Let's see who grabs that cash. The overdogs are holding on by just one paw out there. Only one contestant left. Transfer confirmed for the powerhouses. Coins banked.
And their coins scattered.
And just like that, a new vault has appeared in the arena. Team wipe calamity for the big splash.
Safe to say someone hit them with a cannonball, Scotty.
The big splash are back in play. to their savings. The overdogs are close to being wiped. Just one contestant still fighting out there.
A contestant is down. Their coins are up for grabs and banking.
And there's another vault available for our cash-hungry teams.
A contestant is eliminated and unbanked coins are left behind.
The big splash will need to reboot. Team wiped. A new vault. Our contestants better not leave that unattended for too long. Coins banked! The powerhouses just scored! Special delivery! Will the cadence of the match bring a full stop to the high notes? They're down to one member. There's a new vault to fight for in the arena.
Ouch! Contestant down and unbanked coins spilled. Following an elimination out there, some coins are up for grabs.
Money may not grow on trees, but a new vault just appeared in the arena.
Down for the count, a contestant's coins are up for the banking.
Uh-oh. Only one contestant left for the high notes. Coins banked! The big splash just scored! An early predictor of chaos in the arena as we have a new vault. Every coin adds up. Good bank by the overdogs. Halfway through and the mayhem continues. Don't blink, folks. get very interesting very fast. Well, there's no backup now for the remaining member of the Big Splash.
We've got an elimination. Let's see who scoops up those coins.
This'll burn! A new vault in the arena. The ultimate omen of mayhem here in the finals.
I'm impressed and worried. A contestant is holding on to a king's ransom in coins. They'll probably want to bank that ASAP.
Frag out! Special delivery! Deposit time for the overdogs. Nice little stash locked in just now. Grenade. I love the smell of a fresh vault in the arena. Oh no! The Big Splash have lost all but one contestant! Looks like a team wipeout for the Big Splash.
They'll need to wash away the mistakes they made there.
Precisely, you're on the money.